attachment styles change? And if so, how? Now, most people think their attachment style, whether it is secure, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized, is set in stone. But the truth is these patterns, which often develop from our earliest experiences, are changeable. They absolutely can shift and change over time with the right amount of self-awareness and intentional effort. It may initially feel like it is impossible if you grew up with significant instability or trauma in your childhood. And yet research shows that it is absolutely achievable. In fact, with consistent self-reflection, willingness, and key life events, many people move from anxious, avoidant, or disorganized attachment patterns to healthier, more secure connections. And so in this segment here today, we're going to uncover some factors that make that transformation possible, including 5 specific ways that attachment styles can evolve, allowing you to build deeper and more secure relationships. So let's dive in. So attachment styles are often shaped by our early experiences with our caregivers, whether we developed a secure, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized attachment. These patterns can really influence how we navigate relationships in our lives. And so for a lot of people, they may be afraid that their attachment style is fixed. It's a fixed part of who they are, something that can't be changed, especially if they feel like their past is filled with a lot of instability or trauma. But attachment styles are not fixed. They're not rigid. And when we have self-awareness, we make intentional efforts, and we're able to evaluate certain life experiences with greater consciousness, they do evolve. Now, how does this change happen? What factors allow someone to shift from anxious or avoidant or disorganized to secure? So the research suggests that there are at least 5 critical aspects that can influence our capacity for changing our attachment style. So the first one is having the capacity for self-reflection. So the ability to reflect on past experiences and really derive wisdom from that is really key to changing our attachment styles. Simply having an experience is really not enough to change your behavior. It's the ability to take a step back, to extract lessons from that experience, make new meaning of it, right? That's what makes the difference. So for example, let's say someone who continually finds themselves in conflict with their partner. One of them might conclude, well, all relationships are doomed because this isn't working, right? And so it leads to repeated patterns of failure in relationships. Now, on the other hand, a more reflective person might say, well, what can I do differently next time? And that starts to shift their perspective, and it allows them to break a negative pattern and build healthier, more secure connections over time because they are trying to look at it from a different way. The second thing is susceptibility to change. So they have found that your attachment style's likelihood of changing depends on how stable or flexible what they call your internal relationship model is. So if you've experienced consistent emotional neglect or abandonment, your attachment style is usually more deeply ingrained and it makes it harder to change. But if your experiences were mixed, sometimes they were nurturing, other times they were neglectful, you might actually be more adaptable. So this instability in your relationship experiences creates room for growth and change as an adult because you've experienced things as not being fixed. So if you're feeling unsure about those patterns, it might actually be a good thing because it means that you have the capacity for flexibility and therefore the capacity for change. This is where I think it really applies to our spice of lifers especially. Then, of course, there's the willingness to change, your desire to change. Do you want to change? That is a significant thing when it comes to transforming your attachment style. Studies have shown that people who actively seek to reduce their anxiety or their avoidance experience improvements. And so it's not about becoming perfect. It's really about getting clarity, right? And changing your relationship to your anxiety or to your avoidance. And as you deepen your sense of self-awareness, you start to recognize things like emotional boundaries. You start to understand your triggers and where they come from. You're not so afraid of them anymore. And now you start making decisions that are more aligned with your values. And so over time, that kind of self-awareness creates emotional resilience, and that allows you to respond thoughtfully and intentionally instead of defensively or reactively or impulsively. Number 4 is life events as catalysts for change. So things like major life events, becoming a parent, experiencing a trauma, going through a breakup, these things can affect our attachment style. These are significant experiences that lead us to reevaluate our relationships. They prompt us to change how we connect to others. And so what they have found that can mitigate the direction of that change during these major life events is, what is the presence of support in your life during these times, right? Do you have a therapist? Do you have trusted relationships? Sometimes that can determine how successfully you navigate that major life event. For instance, some of the research says that when a woman has a baby, this is an incredibly potent and powerful time for her attachment style to change. Does her mother show up for her as she becomes a mother in a way that she maybe didn't when she was a child? If she does, that can change her attachment style. Does her partner suddenly become distant and start to isolate themselves because now that their partner is pregnant, all of their own childhood issues come up and they're slipping back into those defensive mechanisms that they had of pulling away, withdrawing, becoming invisible? Well, now the mother's attachment style can start to become increasingly insecure. So it's when we are in these major life events and moments that reflection and growth becomes possible. But it also means that we can start to experience a shift in a more insecure direction as well. And lastly, the capacity for compartmentalization. So it's important to remember that attachment styles are not a one size fits all. You might feel insecure in romantic relationships, but you have very secure friendships. You have very secure relationships at work with your colleagues and other family members. So this is really a capacity to compartmentalize different relationship experiences. And when we can do that, it can allow for the possibility for change in one area, even if another area is remaining stable, right? It's kind of like, I would have you imagine it sort of like knots in a tree, right? The tree may have suffered some kind of trauma, but it continues to grow around that knot and thrives and bears fruit, but that knot is still there. And so there's this capacity to compartmentalize how we will show up to different facets of our lives. And so that means that while one type of relationship could remain challenging, you can still develop secure connections with other people in other aspects of your life. So overall, even though we may feel like attachment styles are fixed, it feels like it's impossible to change, they can change. They can change with self-reflection if we want to change, sometimes as a result of a catalyzing major life event, right? And if we can increase our capacity to compartmentalize in a good way. So if we can open up to new experiences, then we are able to shift from insecure to secure dynamics, and we can create those loving connections that we want. Be mindful, these things can also encourage us to go from a secure to an insecure position, right? So it's important to be mindful of that as well. Who you are now, the people in your life, the things you're surrounded by, this is all a result of who you have been. And who you will become is a result of the choices you will make now. So maybe the best time to have changed something about the way you're doing things was 10 years ago. The second best time is right here, right now. So don't waste another minute. Be intentional about that. Overall, attachment styles might seem fixed, but when we have some self-reflection and a desire for growth, combined with meaningful life events, change is possible. And so by recognizing our attachment patterns and being open to new experiences, we can shift from insecure to secure relationships, creating the deep, loving connections that we have always desired. And so accomplishing this really includes skill building in the areas of self-awareness, boundary setting, emotional regulation, and healthy communication. Now, my Attachment 101 courses guides you through these challenges with a multimodal and experiential approach, featuring things like guided visualizations and art therapy techniques. And so this is going to help you go from feeling anxious and uncertain to feeling more confident and secure in your relationships without the overwhelm of trying to fix or perfect yourself. But you don't have to take my word for it. Here are some success stories from folks that have taken my courses and seen results.
I was very much looking at stopping unhealthy patterns that I've been repeating all my life in intimate relationships.
Yes, I have been married for about 9 years now. I've been with my husband for 15, and we were going through a real rough patch of stuff.
I know what's going on. I just can't, why can't I feel the way I want to feel?
There was an exercise where you have us actually do a relationship timeline.
Looking at the emotions, looking at where they are, looking at the colors, that helped me know what I actually felt.
I would say number one, I gained validation because I felt like I was going crazy.
Why I was doing things the way I did it was so enlightening to me, because everything else I had tried to figure things out on was like, okay, so this happens, you should do this. but it never told me why. And I'm a why person.
In the past 7 weeks, the people that have known me have definitely seen a big change in me.
It is definitely worth the investment.
And I'm somebody who's been in therapy for 4 years. Like, this is hands down the most helpful course I've ever done.
Now, I'm happy to say these results are not unique. What makes my courses so effective is the spiritual approach and the healing modalities, because it's not possible to think your way around attachment wounds and injuries. We have to be willing to feel our way through them. And when you invest in one of my programs, you receive more than just hours of lectures and journal assignments. Instead, you start to feel more grounded and centered using body-activating guided meditations and visualizations that afford you greater control of your emotions. You develop a greater sense of personal empowerment and agency while exploring unique art therapy techniques that tap into your life force energy and remind you of that creative spark and your capacity for joy. And with multimodal energy healing exercises, you learn to transform intellectual insight into actionable processes that help you not only think differently, but feel differently, while attracting and feeling attracted to healthier people. Now, if you're ready to experience results like these, be sure to click the link attached to this video and take the Attachment Styles quiz to assess your attachment style and find the best course that would be the correct starting point for you. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful and insightful. Please leave your comments below and share your experiences, and subscribe to my channel for more content on building secure and loving relationships. Your support means a lot to me, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you.